we were coming up to the 30th anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I literally just turned to Nicki that week, I think, and I was like, "Hey, did you watch Power Rangers?" And she said no, and that blew my mind. And I'm just like, you know what? For Power Ranger Day, we're gonna record our first episode reaction to Power Rangers, and it was surprisingly got a ton of engagement to the point where people were like, "You need to do the whole series," and I'm like, "I'm in. I'm in. Let's do 30 seasons of content that'll keep us busy."
3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast, brought to you by Passion Fruit. I'm joined today by two people I've been very happy to get to know over the last couple of years. In just a short amount of time with their channel, they've really found a niche, I think, in the space, and I'm happy to have them here today. It is Monty and Nicki of Montyverse. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
hey,
of course.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure. We're a fan of you, fan of the channel, fan of the show, so it's our pleasure to be here.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Like I said, it's only been a couple years since you've started the channel, sort of got up and running, but in that time, you've really established yourself with it's very specific, reactions that you've had for certain shows, and your presence in the space is trying to be sort of an informative presence. I think that's sort of what I latched onto right away, is your knowledge of the fandoms that you're sort of covering and your ability to sort of share your knowledge with your audience. That's sort of I think the highlight there.
Yeah, absolutely. Years of practice.
Yeah. So I wanted to cover all of that, obviously where you started, how you got here today, and start with the channel itself. You're one of the many channels that started in the pandemic era of what I call the reaction space, the wave 3 reactors. And a lot of people cite the reaction boom as sort of the catalyst for their channel, because they say they were stuck at home and they just had to find a way to reach out to people some sort of way creatively, and that's what led them to launch their channel. So for that, did the lockdown and the pandemic motivate you in any way in your initial choice to launch the channel?
I would say slightly. We probably I think that I opened the channel towards the middle of the pandemic, 2021-ish.
Mm-hmm.
The channel was definitely an escape for me. When I first started, I was going through it was more of an escape from the pandemic as well as personal things that I was going through at the time. My mother was very sick. She had cancer, so we were dealing with that, and that became kind of my escape from when the day was over, and we did all the things we had to do for her. That was kind of my getaway, my opportunity to kind of embrace the things that I love, to kind of keep my mind off of reality, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Right. And when you first started, you kind of had, in my opinion, when you started, you hit the ground running. You had graphics and sort of an understanding of how you want to operate yourself. Did you have any sort of prior influence or understanding of the YouTube space? Were there any channels that sort of inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, starting out, there were definitely a bunch of channels that I watched. I definitely feel like I was tapped into the YouTube zeitgeist, but none really that. Probably the main ones were Comic Storian that I really loved and watched. New Rockstars was another big one that I really loved and watched. Those were kind of the main niche nerd culture kind of stuff that I was into, as well as Geekdom 101 and stuff like that, other anime stuff. In terms of experience, I had zero experience starting out. So it was all an interesting learning process. And like you said, I kind of just hit the ground running. Once I put something in my head, I may not have experience, but I'm like a sponge. I absorb things very quickly, and I'm able to pick things up very quickly. So and I'm a visual guy. I'll see something and I'll just kind of tap into that and say, I want it to look like this. How can I make it look like that? Mm-hmm. And that's basically where I started and how it really started for me.
I mean, just to piggyback off of that, he like you say, he hit the ground running with trying to kind of learn the ins and outs of what programs did he want to use, how did he want to format his videos. I even remember I once edited a video for you.
Yeah.
And knowing like how great he is at Premiere now and the stuff he's taught me, it's wild to think just how much he has really grown in his skills from there. But in the reverse, he's also taught me a lot to help contribute more to the channel as well.
Yeah, it's. Right. I mean, but those. I'm glad you appreciate those early videos because to me, it's so hard to look back. It's hard to look back at the early stuff and be like, "Damn, those were rough. Those were rough times." I mean, even we watched my first video last night just to kind of look back, and even my energy was so low. I was just at such a weird point in my life that I had such low energy, and that's so. the antithesis of me as a person.
It's not you. If there's anything to describe him, it's not low energy or quiet.
Yeah. Sometimes it's important to look back, reflect on where you come from. Everyone starts somewhere. I know everyone has that sort of embarrassing beginning where they're like, oh, like I didn't know what I was doing with the channel, with the craft of it. Was there any sort of significant technical learning curve for you at first? Because those first videos were reviews, but you had a lot of supplemental material with like still frames and graphics and stuff like that on top of it. Yeah. Was there any sort of learning experience for you there?
Yeah, there was a huge learning curve. I mean, it's like I said, I started from zero. I started from bottom. So there's definitely a huge curve in terms of like, what do I want to do? What do I want my identity to be? What do I want my videos to look like? And it was just, I feel like every video is an experiment. Even to this day, we're constantly experimenting with our look, thumbnails, video. Like, I feel like now we're hitting our stride in terms of like editing, but everything was kind of a learning curve, and I feel like the curve's still moving.
It really is. I also like real quick, we have to give a shout out to Luis,
who helped us a lot,
who we met through you. So he's been a huge asset to the channel. We'll go to him for a lot of editing, but there's like some stuff that we've also been kind of learning ourselves, because from the way some videos used to look to how it is now, like, has evolved tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is just finding the time, to edit.
Yeah, absolutely. And were you familiar with the reaction space at all? Because I know you didn't get into reactions for a little while. It was mainly trailer reactions that you started with. But just the reaction space, is that something you were familiar with beforehand?
Surprisingly, not really. It kind of wasn't on my radar when I first started. When I started, I thought of myself as being more like an informative, like video essay type channel. I did a lot of like character origins in the beginning, which I still love and I still would love to find time to do, but they're very much labor intensive and they took a lot of time in terms of editing. When we did our first reaction, and our first reaction video was Dune, was one for a Dune trailer that Nicki wasn't even on the video. Nicki hadn't even joined the channel at that point. And it was really just me allowing my friend Zach, who is a huge Dune fanatic, he loves Dune, the opportunity to kind of have a platform to discuss his passion, because that's what really drove me is using my platform to talk about what makes me passionate. So when I have someone who I know is very passionate about something, I just embrace that and I give them the opportunity to kind of just talk. And that's what really started it. And from there, I kind of began my journey, my rabbit hole down the reaction space.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think I probably watched a lot more reactions, just because obviously you've had some of the big guns. You've had Late to the Party, you've had Real Rejects, who I have watched and been familiar with. But then I feel like I'm into that niche of guys who watch rom-coms or more female-centric movies. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I watch Billy Binges. I watch the Movie Buds, who have since disbanded. But channels like those, where that's kind of like, that to me was really fun to get into. That's the kind of stuff I would get lost into and go down the YouTube rabbit hole a lot of the time.
Right. And yeah, you mentioned having on Zach on and Nicki coming on the channel later. That sort of experience and process you had early on with finding different people for different niches that you were covering was something that I saw and I thought was really interesting. You opened up the channel in a really creative way to be collaborative with people coming on and sharing, like you said, their passion for very specific things. To cover Nicki, obviously being now the sort of primary co-host of the channel, how did you two meet? What was the story there?
That was actually a product of the pandemic more than the channel. We were in a Facebook chat with a bunch of other people, and we bonded over, funny enough, Yu-Gi-Oh! That was something that came up, probably knowing me, I probably brought it up, and she jumped onto that immediately, and we began talking about it. And finding that we had a lot in common and we really enjoyed each other's company and perspectives on life, and kind of the rest was history from there.
Right. When Nicki, when you came on to the channel, did you understand what was going on here? Did Monty have to explain anything to you in terms of like the format or like sort of the experience being on camera for that?
Honestly, I felt very knowledgeable about what his process was and what he was trying to accomplish with his videos, because I had pretty much been with him most steps of the way as he started the channel.
You actually named the channel. You came up with the name for the channel.
Yeah, I remember, because I pitched Monty's Multiverse, and that's where Montyverse came from.
And I was like, Montyverse, cut it in half.
But yeah, the first time I had ever appeared, it was actually... we tried doing a 3-way Zoom reaction with Zach for the Sonic 2 trailer, and I was super nervous. I'd been on other things before, but it was weird. But I kind of knew like what his vibe was and what he was going for. So obviously with time, I think we found our groove a lot better. But yeah, since then, I mean, the rest is history.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. And what was that process like, bringing on not just Nicki, but everyone else, you know, and finding the people to like, again, share their passion and like express their interest in these very specific subjects, video to video?
It was kind of simple. I kind of was just like, hey, you want to do this?
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah. I mean, it's just, that's part of the reason why I brought Nicki on in the first place. I would have these really interesting, in-depth conversations with people about things, and that's really why I kind of pushed Nicki to kind of get in front of the camera and put herself out there, because we would talk for hours about movies. She's very passionate about like Pixar and animated films and cinema in general, to the point where I'm like, we have to put this on camera. This is stuff this is dialogue that I feel like is worth recording or worth putting out there. And that's really what I see in people. If I can have a conversation with someone about something, or if someone knows something more about a subject than I do and it interests me, I will bring them on and I'll have them talk to me about it. And I think me asking questions makes for good content, because I'm interested. So me being inquisitive will ask questions, and they'll give for the most part, really good answers.
And honestly, that really works in reverse too, because not to jump ahead too much, but not even just stuff that I and anyone else you have on the channel is passionate and knowledgeable about. You have taught me so much more about different fandoms and movies and shows than I ever thought I would know. Like, I know more about the Bat family than I ever thought I would. As someone who's never read a comic book. No, that's not true anymore. But at the time, and that's what I think makes it the most interesting. It's that it's stuff that passion is the key word, and stuff that's just fun. We do things that we really want to do ourselves, that we are interested in this. We think it's something that would make for good content, but that we think we can also share with each other.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That shared interest is like a big part of like what I appreciate about the channel and about the space in general, like people finding those connections over those things. But like a big part of, the channel was a pandemic start, but also you started in what I would describe as like the beginning of the streaming wars, like, you know, all these platforms coming out in that era of 2020 and onward with their original content, you know, Paramount Plus, Max, so on. And your first reviews were for the MCU Disney Plus shows. And when I talked with Greg Alba last year about it, he mentioned how, you know, being a longtime reactor and getting into that era of of the content, that brought back the sort of cultural online water cooler, like, you know, experience of people coming together to talk about this like single thing. I think we're going through that right now pretty well with Fallout and X-Men, and obviously people talking about it week to week. But at that time, when you even just starting and trying to get traction with the channel, what was that like for you, diving into that cultural conversation as you were trying to grow?
It was interesting because content was way more readily available, I feel like, than it was before that. I think in terms of like it's content that I like, that really I gravitate towards, like Marvel TV shows. Yes, sign me up for that. I would love to talk about those. And it's interesting because there is that kind of conversation about now, especially with weekly releases and the binge model, like creating water cooler talk. And I think Disney Plus, when they were doing the weekly releases, that not only I think gave me time to edit those videos, because a lot of those videos there was a lot of like effects for someone who didn't know what he was doing, so that helped me a lot. But it also helped me, I think, to feel more comfortable, like to hit the ground running, because there was a lot more, I think, for me to talk about and a lot more interest. Like people were interested in learning about Wanda and Vision and their relationship and all of the stuff that happened between them and the comics and their complex history. So I think for me, that just made it easier for me to find my foot in and kind of say like, oh, hey, I know this stuff. I could talk about it.
Right. And when you started getting into, say, like the later videos and trying to figure out your niche and your footing, you started covering the material in an informative manner. Like you're doing the shorts, like the sort of backlog, like information videos about like who's who, what's what. How did you decide to sort of dive into that? Because like that's something that I've heard from people trying to do, and it's tough. It's tough in this day and age, to kind of establish your voice in that sense. But you've done really well, sort of giving out those videos. I've seen how well those reels do for you. I guess, how did you approach that process of like, supplementing the channel with those short form reels and like stuff for TikTok and so on?
Yeah, I mean, there was. It's kind of, if you don't mind this being a long-winded answer, I think
Sure.
How I look at like the channel is really two parts. When I first started, like I said, it was an escape. I had a lot going on. I wasn't really the version of me that I am now. I was a me that had a lot on his head, I had no energy. My mind was all over the place, scattered. So the videos were very simple, and I don't think they were as good as they could have been, but they were videos that I liked doing. I liked doing those character bios. I liked doing those Easter egg videos. Mm-hmm. So when I kind of took a break after my mom passed and after my dad passed, I kind of took a break from the channel. I stepped away to deal with my trauma, my anxiety. And when I came back after a couple of months, it was a version of myself that not only had a better head, but was also more able to talk and discuss things at length. So that's when we really started pushing the reaction stuff. Mm-hmm. But in terms of the shorts and the reels, I had missed that kind of content I was making before. I missed that informative content that I was making before I had stopped and put a pause on everything. So that was me kind of reestablishing that. And with the way that YouTube and the TikTok has created like the 11-second attention span, the 8-second attention span, and people, shorts and reels were a way for me to inform people about certain characters or certain, things going on in the space that I don't think I would have been able to do successfully in a long form video, because long form videos, I don't think were being pushed as much. And I don't think still are being as pushed as much as reels and shorts and TikToks. So that's kind of why I started branching off a little bit. And I'm always looking to do different things. I don't want to keep doing like one thing over and over and over again and not trying to refine it or do something else, because I have a lot of passions and I have a lot of things I want to talk about. So there's only so many things you can react to. That again, like without having to react to the entire Yu-Gi-Oh series yet, I can make reels or shorts about Yu-Gi-Oh! Yeah. And I can make reels and shorts about like Beyblade and Dragon Ball without having to tackle like a 500 episode show at the moment.
Yeah, because it's not even just digestible for the viewer. It's easier and like less that we have to invest in a singular video, but it doesn't make it any less important. You also have to cater it to the kind of content you have in mind. Like, for example, you had that idea because I was geeking out about Yu-Gi-Oh! And brought up Season 0, and he thought, oh, that's a really interesting idea short. And something that we could put into a short. So it also kind of just allows for some of these like fun, wackier ideas that, hey, it's almost like a test ride in a way. Like, see kind of what that engagement is like to see if people are interested. Because we keep like a running list of ideas.
Or just like weird things we'll talk about. Like, hey, do you remember this?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Can I like share one?
Yes, I already know what you're thinking about. Go ahead.
It's only because he was the one who kept harping on it. I think we now have to do it since we're going to talk about it. He wanted to do a short about, hey guys, remember Kyle XY on ABC Family?
Kyle XY, the belly button.
Yeah.
Because I was just fascinated with that advertising campaign. It's the whole advertising campaign was this guy has no belly button. Yeah. What's up with that?
And like it's so bizarre and like so it's out of anyone's like cultural zeitgeist, but it's so insane that it's like we have to talk about it.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good niche, actually. Like those older Disney or Nickelodeon shows, with like the sort of the weird that lasted for maybe 1 or 2 seasons. I don't know why that reminded me of. I don't know if you ever saw like the 1,000 Good Deeds for like Eddie McGuire. It's like where the guy turns into a dog. and he has to do like 1,000 good deeds. Like
Yeah.
those type of weird, really weird shows that like really kind of high concepts for kids.
Because everyone has that, like you said, like everyone has that in the back of their head, and then to force that memory forward, you kind of tap into that nostalgia for people. They're like, oh, I remember that. So they'll sit there and they'll watch it for 30 seconds to a minute.
And like, especially if you're nostalgic for something, like I'll tell them random things like, hey, like I know you never watched Hannah Montana and don't care, but there was this weird thing that happened, and I'll explain to them and you'll be like, what the F?
Yeah. Austin Butler's Hannah Montana. Yeah. You didn't get into the TV reactions, the longer form reactions for the channel for a little while. Again, it was like about a year or so, sticking to the trailer reactions and the reviews. And you eventually started getting into that. You crossed that threshold with She-Hulk, and at the same time, one of the more creative choices I think I've seen for reaction content, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers for the channel. I got to ask, what is your personal history with Power Rangers, and how did you come to that decision to make that one of your first shows to launch with?
It's so weird because on paper it would seem like something we planned out like long term, but it was really just like I like Power Rangers, and I grew up in that perfect like pocket of Power Rangers, Pokemon, Digimon, like all of these things. I grew up in that perfect pocket of like, these were the things I grew up with. This is my fandom growing up. And Power Rangers is always something I was very fond of, and I ended up sticking with. Just even when I was, older and more mature, I would kind of go back and revisit the stuff that I missed. And there were a lot of great content creators out there that were making videos on Power Rangers, and even to this day, still great people in the Toku community making video essays on Power Rangers. And it was something that I was like, hey, we were coming up to the 30th anniversary of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and it was close to Power Rangers Day, which is essentially like the day before my birthday. So that's another weird connection between me and Power Rangers. And I literally just turned to Nicki that week, I think, and I was like, hey, did you watch Power Rangers? And she said no, and that blew my mind.
I know. I'm very shocked in hindsight that I had never seen it before, because I would have ate that shit up when I was younger.
And I'm just like, you know what? For Power Ranger Day, we're going to record our first episode reaction of Power Rangers. We're just going to do it. And it kind of blew up. For the size of our channel at the time, it definitely blew up. And it was surprisingly got a ton of engagement to the point where people were like, you need to do the whole series. And I'm like, I'm in. Let's do 30 seasons of content. That'll keep us busy.
And that was mind blowing to me, because I knew it obviously had a fan base, but the extended history of this fandom, I knew there were other seasons. I do remember like SPD commercials, like for those toys, but the breadth of this whole franchise was so crazy. And I was like, man, I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah. But that's what I really love is, like he said, it's the engagement, the passion from the people who are very receptive to our reaction to it. And honestly, I mean, obviously every fan base has their bad eggs, but honestly, I feel like we've been very fortunate where for the most part, we've had a lot of very supportive, engaging, it feels weird calling them fans, but people who've interacted with our content and content, who enjoyed it. And honestly, that just makes it makes just the fandom itself more engaging.
Yeah, we have fun with it. They keep us having fun with it.
And that was super fascinating because, again, like Power Rangers has lasted so long, and you've been plugged into the culture around it. I've seen your tweets. I kind of know about that space more than I definitely would have if not for your coverage of it. And seeing how you keep up to date with it. Even the drama and sort of stuff behind the scenes, like stuff that I'm not privy to at all. But I'm like, oh, there's obviously there's something here. There's depth to this community that I'm unaware of. Being able to tap into that and again revisit something that was near and dear to you for so long in your childhood, but now share that experience with a community and with a partner. What has that been like for you? Just revisiting that and seeing it in a new light as an adult in that way.
It's very rewarding, right? Because it's one of those things like where someone will turn to you and say, "Oh, you're watching Power Rangers. That'll get you nowhere in life." Well, joke's on you, bud. Because here we are. But I think the most rewarding thing is, like you said, getting to share that with Nicki and getting to introduce her to Power Rangers. And I know that we've introduced other people to Power Rangers because of our series, and and that's really cool because it's a very niche fandom, and to be able to help grow it in any way is really cool for me because I've been a part of it from almost the beginning, pretty much the beginning since I was like 3 years old at this point. So to get to be any part of that is really rewarding.
This is mind blowing because I have to say it because obviously I watched it for the first time, so I'm not watching Mighty Morphin ahead. But once we started doing this series, my sister, who also did not grow up watching it, not only has started watching it, is like 3 seasons ahead of where I am right now. And that is so validating to me. But I love that. I love that we are able to kind of share that fandom with people, whether they're familiar or not. Like it just felt super rewarding. Like, wow, there's, like you said, the validation in what we're interested in love.
Yeah.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah, and now you've gone even further. Like you've now watching
Boonja.
Yeah, with the wheels for faces for the new series. Just branching out again into that sort of like you're bridging the gap there of like different types of the sort of Power Rangers demographic. And how has that been for you trying to cover that sort of landscape of it, not just going in chronological order, but like reach out and go beyond?
It's really interesting because we had always planned on tackling Super Sentai eventually because we just keep getting a lot of people asking for it, and it's always something I've been interested in. I've always known about Super Sentai for a very long period of time. I knew it was what birthed Power Rangers, and tokusatsu in general is a huge genre that we're really barely scratching the surface of. And I kind of grew up with Power Rangers and the old Godzilla movies, but I never really got into Sentai because it wasn't that readily available for North American audiences, and still not easily available for North American audiences for consumptions outside of like DVD sales. Now that Shout Factory is selling a lot of them on DVD. So to be able to kind of take this, because once the Boon Boonger promo material started coming out, I'm like, I have to watch this show. It looks so ridiculous. These guys just have full-on tires and rims on their faces. So I kind of committed to that, and it's been cool because we've been able to kind of get our audience. There's a lot of cross-pollination. There's a lot of our audience that is fans of Super Sentai that are kind of going on this journey with us. But not only that, but I feel like we're introducing a lot more people to that and keeping people more open-minded and willing to check it out. So that's something that was really cool.
And honestly, I love this so freaking much. This might just be one of my favorite shows we have ever covered. It is such a joy.
Yeah.
And we mostly just kind of picked it and ran with it because obviously, like, Power Rangers as a franchise is daunting enough. Never mind, okay, and add every Sentai series on top of that. So it also just feels like luck, kind of.
And it's luck too, because this one, Boom Boonger, is more of a return to form for Sentai. The past couple before this were pretty experimental from what we were told, and they were very different and involved people that were like flamingo monsters and things like that that were Rangers and Don Brothers. So to have us come in with this that feels more traditional and feels pretty close to Power Rangers, except it's more of a parody of it. It was something that was really fun for us, and it's been really rewarding.
Yeah. I guess the answer might not be obviously yes, but are you aware of the new anime that came out, the Reject Ranger series?
Yes.
Do you have any plans to react to that or cover that in any way?
Absolutely. We are going to cover it. It's with most things on our channel, it's a reason why it took us so long to kind of get into episodic reactions. It's all about time and how much time we're able to commit. Right now, we're doing 3 full series, and we're going to be covering Knuckles. So it's all about mitigating time for us. Whereas in the beginning, I was doing all of the editing, and it was a lot of work. There were nights where I wouldn't sleep with She-Hulk. There were nights where I would stay up, wake up at 3 a.m., sleep for like an hour, watch the episode, do the reaction, and then edit until I had to go to work at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then edit it on my lunch break and upload it. So it's all about mitigating time and finding time for us to still enjoy life and relax. So what we're doing now is we've evolved into a 2-person system. And obviously, and that's where Luis came in with. Luis has helped us so much in helping us tackle shows that we would have never been able to, just the 2 of us, because we both work full-time jobs, and we both are at a point in our professional careers where it's important to still be working and have those jobs. And so just to be able to mitigate a little bit of that editing helped us to cover things like Percy Jackson and other series. So that was a huge help. But now for most of our stuff, it's a 2-person system, whereas Nicki will kind of do the first pass through edit, and she's kind of evolved. I'm very proud of her. She's evolved as an editor to the point where the stuff she incorporates a lot of jokes and a lot of memes into the edit, which I really love, and has definitely, I think, changed our voice for the better in terms of that. And then I'll come in and I'll give it a pass, and I'll make some additional edits, and I'll incorporate some of my jokes in there, and then I'll do all the thumbnail and SEO stuff, and then we'll upload it. So with that, right now we're tackling Power Rangers, Boom Boomger, and X-Men '97. And then we're going to be jumping on Knuckles this week. So we will be doing Go Go Loser Ranger. As soon as X-Men finishes up, we're going to jump right into that.
Okay.
But we are very excited to check that out, because anime is another thing that we're huge fans of.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing, particularly for when you covered One Piece. I know, Nicki, you were sort of the point on that, being the expert for One Piece going into it. I guess, what is that dynamic? How does that shift for you between the two of you when one's going into it as sort of the guide for the other, depending on what the material is?
Oh, absolutely. And that's something like I'm hoping at some point that we delve more into. We've talked about is me showing him stuff for the first time that I'm very passionate about. And One Piece in a prototypical way kind of was that. But for me,
it definitely was.
Yeah, but it was just so interesting because for me, I loved One Piece. I very specifically loved the 4Kids dub of One Piece that was edited to smithereens. But because I was just so nostalgic for all that anime as a kid. But yeah, so that was exciting because as with any adaptation of anime, I was super skeptical, as I'm sure the rest of the world was. And he had just no experience. He was a Naruto guy, a Dragon Ball guy, not a One Piece guy.
Felt like there was a turf war.
Yeah.
I felt like I loved Naruto, so I couldn't love One Piece. I felt like there was there was gay lines being drawn in the sand.
And
it definitely is that dynamic,
And at this point, I don't blame anyone for not attempting One Piece at this point, for how long it is. But yeah, with it coming up and with all the hype behind it, and with how promising those initial trailers were, I think that's kind of what got him more on board with it.
Yeah, and then you would talk to me about it because your sister's a big fan of One Piece.
Caught up. Totally caught up.
Yeah. So they kept peer pressuring me into and we watched the first trailer, and I was like, hey, let's watch this trailer. And I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say it was a fantastic adaptation of the series. And I enjoyed watching your reaction to it, everyone's reaction to it, because it was just almost like a breath of fresh air for people who weren't familiar with the material, like you were saying, who kind of had that sort of standoffish barrier between them and the show.
Absolutely. Because I had watched the Romance Dawn arc. I had watched the whole East Blue saga leading up to it, just because I was just curious and I wanted to check it out. And I was so impressed at how they were able to condense 80 episodes or 50, I forgot how many it is, 60 episodes into 8 episodes so perfectly.
Yeah.
It was so well done. Mm-hmm. And to grow up with Dragon Ball Evolution and the Death Note adaptation, all of these terrifyingly haunting anime adaptations.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it really surpassed anyone's expectations, certainly my own.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out to my friend Joe Johnson, who is one of the main co-hosts on Tabletop Jocks. He just finished watching the series in its entirety this past week. So congrats to someone doing it. Someone starting from I think he only started after the live action adaptation came out. He started and just binged it for the last few months and just got through it.
That's
great. Yeah. But you mentioned She-Hulk and in now how this sort of reflects, the current state of the channel with the balanced, reactions, in a rotation you have. When you started out, it was the Power Rangers reactions and She-Hulk, and having that dynamic of a niche show for a niche audience and then a sort of widespread show for an accessible audience that people could find because they were searching week to week for those reviews and reactions. How did that balance sort of, I think, help you in that early sprint to get into those longer form reactions?
It helped us because I think for the most part, there was a lot of positivity behind it and a lot of people ended up enjoying our reactions. Because I think one thing that was always important to me when we started the episodic reactions was I wanted to keep the dialogue review, the kind of back and forth we have in the videos, because a lot of people don't do that. I see a lot of people condense those after episode discussions to keep the video as tight as possible, or to just kind of have that reaction there, because most people will click away anyway. But I think that was really what helped us grow in popularity as well, because I do think we have really good dialogue and discussions after each episode of any show that we cover. And I'm very much someone who always grew up analyzing movies critically. I was a very big fan of movie critics growing up, and was a fan of cinema. So I always view things from an analytical lens, and I want to be able to discuss it. Even something like, even we could be watching Power Rangers, and I would still discuss it as if we were watching, still talk about the story of the episode, and talk about character arcs and how the characters play. So I feel like that was important to me too, and helped us grow in the beginning too, because a lot of people were like, hey, we actually stay to the end to watch you guys talk about it. So that was really encouraging.
Yeah. Having those after show conversations, I think is really important for the space in general. I think it adds some legitimacy to what the reaction genre is. I think people early in the first era of reaction content, people thought it was really easy content, really low hanging fruit, just watch the thing, click off, that's it. But there were people who sort of paved the way to have genuine insight into what they're watching and provide genuine commentary. I think yes. So anyone who wants to get into the space, I would definitely advocate for that. Have your own insight after the show, during, before, whatever, to establish who you are as individuals, not just people watching the material itself. And then once you had that understanding of the long form reactions, Wishy Hulk and My Morph Power Rangers and so on, did you then have any sort of specific strategy for how you wanted to approach future shows currently airing or already finished material?
I think honestly the biggest thing is we cover stuff. We're very open-minded to giving any movie or show a shot, but we truly try to focus on what we are interested in, no matter what, whether or not we would make content about it.
We actually did sit down and we talked about strategy. Our strategy was not to spread ourselves too thin when we first started, and that was basically cover what we want to cover, talk about the things that are passionate or that we are interested in or intrigues us, things that we don't know about that we're curious about, and try not to do everything, not to hit everything. If it's something that's like Wednesday was a huge TV show for a lot of channels, we didn't cover that at all because it wasn't really something that we felt like we could do give a dialogue to that we felt was important to it at all.
Yeah, we didn't preemptively think I mean, by all means, I'm Family Values, amazing funny movie, but it was never a fandom of sorts that I was salivating for another adaptation of. And again, if for people who love it, I think that's fantastic. I know it's beloved, but no, I think we know what we're interested in and we kind of go based on that.
Yeah, and I think we kind of, how I see our community is it's people who can't watch us to be informed about something or to have some sort of kicker on the video, like One Piece, that I feel like that was a really interesting dynamic between the two of us. Anything that we can present in the video that feels unique to us or feels in our spirit, in our vein.
Yeah, having those that understanding of what corners you fit in, I think is very important, particularly for now that we're 10 plus years into the reaction space as a genre. That definitely helps avoid for burnout. I think people can easily get into burnout if they feel the need to cover every sort of single thing that's topical at the moment, and being able to reserve yourself for the things that you're passionate about, I think helps that longevity for yourself and for the channel.
Yeah, because we're East Coasters, so it's not easy. It's not easy waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to cover new releases. So we really have to be passionate about it or have something to say in order to kind of devote that much time and effort into it.
Yeah, particularly as we mentioned a little while ago, the difference between the binge model and the weekly release model that now we're kind of going back and forth with between certain shows. I guess how has that been for you? Tackling those different formats for the channel, especially simultaneously.
Yeah, because it's crazy because the last drop all at once was probably Avatar, right?
Yeah.
And now it's going to be the case with Knuckles. So you're right, we are still doing that.
I think the binge model is not only bad for TV and for properties in general, I think it's also bad for reaction channels because it puts too much on us all at once.
Yeah.
It doesn't give us an opportunity. We have to cover everything as quickly as possible for these new releases. So then to cover it and get it edited and get it uploaded, it puts a lot of pressure on you. I much prefer the weekly releases. One, because I like X-Men's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
Because it's in the zeitgeist right now. It's been talked about for 6 weeks so far straight. People are praising it and talking about how great it is. Whereas if it was released all at once, I couldn't even imagine the show reaching the same heights that it had, because those twists and those cliffhanger moments wouldn't be there to kind of have you digest and ruminate on, permeate on for a week.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was going to say, especially for a show as heavy as that, could you imagine like watching episodes being stressed and heartbroken
Go sit in a corner
and anxiety ridden and then immediately jump into the next one?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like part of that, again, that sense of reservation, like that binge tendency we can't help ourselves. If we have the binge a model in front of us, a lot of people can't help themselves. But like, I gotta just finish it. I gotta know what's next. Gotta know what happens. But the weekly release, I think, forces us to really sit with something and really reflect and digest on it. Otherwise, like, we just can't just get past it. So we have the complete picture. And X-Men, like you said, is like such a great example so far of why that works really well, particularly for the reaction space.
Yeah, it's reached prestige that I don't think it would have reached if it was released all at once.
Yeah.
The fact that, some of those episodes, they're so hard hitting, and then to have it sit with you for a week is too important not to do when you're dropping TV episodes.
Yeah. So, I mean, X-Men and, like I said, Avatar, so on. The channel obviously covers, very specific fandoms of, like, comic books and Star Wars and so on, the high genres type stuff. Over the years, I mean, you came into the reaction space when I think the dust sort of settled on like this like big culture war that we have been through for the past decade, thanks to like certain things in the fandoms. Once you started the channel, did you have any sort of informative, perspective about how you wanted to carry yourself, since we have been in sort of a turbulent space with the online fandoms for the past several years?
Mm-hmm. And this was something we also just talked about recently. And I think I can say for both of us is just not to ever take it too seriously, be able to laugh at ourselves, laugh at the stuff we're reacting to as well. Power Rangers be a great example of that. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this because we're passionate about it, we love it, and there's just no need for any kind of hatred or over-the-top negativity.
Yeah, just be real. Just be 100% real. We're both very authentic people. I've gotten the chance to know you and become friends with you, and I think that you could kind of speak to that. I keep things 100% all the time. Yeah. I speak my mind no matter what that is, and that's the way I view reactions. I mean, Avatar. We ended up really enjoying that series overall, the live action Avatar, but there were a couple episodes that we called out for being subpar, or for us at least not enjoying the way that we should, and people didn't like that. But at the end of the day, it felt better to be true to ourselves and to just be. It's our opinion, so we're going to give our opinion and stay true to what we think. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
Also, we couldn't win because when we were negative, people gave us crap for that. When we were positive, people gave us crap for that. So it's better, like, just say what you actually think and take the crap, because at least it's what you actually thought.
And you learn to laugh about it. Don't take anything too seriously. And that's, like you said, we don't take ourselves too seriously either.
And also, I mean, Monty's a meme lord. If he can find the meme in something, he will take it and run with it 100 miles an hour.
100%.
Yeah. Do you have any breakdown, mantras or like, cool down practices to like step away from those comments and from like, when things get a little heated online, with or without, your intention that way?
I kind of just turn my brain off. I find something to turn my brain off, whether it's a YouTube video or I'll doom scroll TikTok for 5 minutes, something that will completely shut my brain down, because I feel like my mind races a mile a minute. Yeah. I feel like it's just the type of person I am. I've always been that way. I feel like my synapses are always firing, and can be overwhelming sometimes just throughout the day. So I feel like that, just to find a quiet space, a quiet, dark space, just go and turn your brain off for a couple of minutes always helps me to kind of come down a little bit.
Yeah, and then also, I think, I mean, obviously we've had people be pretty nasty, but then we have the people who whatever they're saying is so absurd. Like the fact that
It's
a human
funny.
mind conjured this, it's like at least like he'll send it to me and we'll at least be able to laugh about it. So I mean, not that's any less bad, but we can again, it's one of those things where it's like I can't take this person who's a faceless, not really their name online, and that's so absurd. I'm gonna now disregard it after 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, like someone left a comment on one of our videos recently that was really funny. And it was just like, you're the type of person people hate at work. And I just found that so funny.
It's so weird.
People are so weird.
Or like, not that I read every single one. I feel like I've mostly been fortunate. Like
there's too many to read them all now.
But like sometimes like I'll get like the creepy comments from like guys who'll like comment about me or how I look. I feel like for the most part there hasn't really been anything over the line. The one that will always stick with me because it's so weird is this person who's like, Nicki is so gorgeous, but I hate her eyebrows. And I'm like, okay.
That's always a funny one because the fact that someone felt the need to not only notice that about you, but take the time to type that out just always gets me. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's that detachment I think you have to have, from the absurdness of these comments. Yeah.
Healthy self-image.
Yeah.
I think we both, at this point in my life, I think I have a pretty good, healthy self-image of myself. It took years to get there, but we got there.
Yeah. Now that you have a couple years under your belt with the channel, again, like it's still relatively fresh and new for you, like compared to a lot of other channels I've had the opportunity to talk to. You still have a lot ahead of you, especially now that, again, I think in terms of material that we're getting from like the studios and stuff like that, everything is still sort of shifting from like movie releases, like getting quicker, to streaming, and like the binge model versus the weekly release still getting figured out, and like platforms are almost going under, from underperforming. Do you have any plans or aspirations for the future of the channel and like how you want to operate that?
There's a lot of things. We want to keep trying new things.
Mm-hmm.
We want to keep experimenting. Like we've been doing a lot more movie reviews as opposed to like movie reactions. Because I think, like I said, I always had a deep found respect for movie critics, and it's always something I wanted to do. And was a passion of mine. And I've been very lucky and fortunate to be in contact with a bunch of studios and have been getting to go to screenings. So that's something that we're able to do more of now, which are movie reviews. And we plan on doing more of those in the future. Just like we're also getting access to more conventions now, to work more conventions as press. So that's going to be fun stuff. And that's stuff that we want to bring to the channel, like more like convention blogs or stuff of that nature, and to just kind of open it up a little bit and not keep it so niche.
Oh yeah. And like he said, experimenting. One of the funniest things I think we've ever done was we got to be pressed at a con in Connecticut called Terrificon. And Monty did this really fun short on YouTube where he interviewed an M'Baku cosplayer while he was in character answering questions about other MCU characters.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of like fun thing that it's so organic and it comes from interacting with other people because we're getting out there more, that I'm kind of excited for that kind of possibility where it's more creative and inventive and just kind of seeing like where the wind takes us in a way.
Yeah, we don't want to be afraid to try new things. We don't want to get too comfortable to the point where it's just like, yeah, we'll just keep doing this forever. And while that's great, and while we would love doing that, I think, I'm always looking to try something different just to see if it works. And if it doesn't, we can always keep things the way they are.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, having those opportunities on the horizon is very important. I just spoke with, obviously, Wendy and Dustin from the Movie Couple, and like, they've been in that space for a long time, having the balance of press and content creator, like how that they manage that. And I think it's important, to have those opportunities and to understand for yourself like how you want to operate the channel and like bring that new content to your audience in a way that makes you feel creatively fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and to sort of start wrapping things up here, one of the questions I always ask is, what has been the most consistent obstacle for you in your time with the channel?
That's a great question.
That's a great question. I mean, definitely
probably time.
I was literally gonna say time.
Yeah.
Time's our greatest obstacle. If we had the time, we would do so much. We would do so much.
Like just starting, especially now that I'm doing some of this editing more, I do envision like, man, if I didn't then have to go work, I could get so much more done. We could like theoretically do like a video a day, and that would be kind of the dream, but at the same time, we're also just not there yet. And like we were talking about, we don't want to suffer from burnout. We don't want to overdo it.
And we're trying to keep a healthy just mentality and just not a healthy. I don't want to say healthy relationship as if it's not healthy, but we want to keep our time open. We want to allot time for reactions. We want to allot time for the channel. We want to allot time for work. We want to allot time for fun activities, and because we're still young and we want to adventure and go out and try new things. So we try not to deprive ourselves of too much, but man, 24 hours, it's just not a lot of time.
And it's hard because Monty especially, but we're both very ambitious in terms of the ideas we have and what we can envision. Because it's so easy to envision things, but making them the reality, again, I would say time.
You're good at reining me in. You crack the whip. I'm very, like she said, we're both very ambitious, but me, I kind of like, I want to do like 100 different things. And she's like, well, maybe we do like 3 things. Maybe we do 4 things.
Yeah, because that's something that I'm very adamant about and stuff will happen. And I hate when it happens, but I do want us to be as consistent as possible. We're not always able to, but I think we're getting a lot closer to that point now because we have those shows that we do regularly. And we have ideas for projects outside of those that we want to do, like the reviews or like the odd movie reaction that we do want to do. But with what we have kind of committed ourselves to, I do think that we need to keep that consistency going.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. You don't want to overextend yourself beyond what you're capable of. That's a really important thing to remember. And then next question is, how do you feel you've personally grown with the channel over the last few years?
That's another great question. I feel like that's hard. I mean, I feel like you've grown a lot from the channel.
I definitely think I have tremendously. I mean, in terms of not even just gaining the knowledge and passion for some new fandoms, I feel like I've been educated on a lot of stuff outside of that, like the processes, like kind of having this other thing in my life that I devote so much energy and work and passion into. And even though there are times where, like, trust me, it gets frustrating and like we'll be mad at each other, but it's ultimately like it's so rewarding, and it's that feeling of validation of was able to do this thing that I had control over that I wanted to do, and not that by any means that we're driven by external validation only, but it's nice when you can share that with other people and kind of see their own passion and their own validation through that as well. Go ahead.
And I think for me, it's just the perseverance. I think it's just to just keep grinding and to stay humble and never expect anything and never get a big head or think that anything is never sense of entitlement. Never think that anything's like entitled to you or you're too big to do something. Just always keep putting yourself out there. And if you get told no, ask again until, eventually someone will say yes. And that's kind of where I've grown. That's definitely that perseverance and that keep grinding attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen you both grow in that regard. Just with your time to the channel, your dedication to it, it's been very, very visible to me at least.
Thank you. I want to give you a shout out because you, like I said, I started from nothing in terms of like knowledge base. I came from no background in the industry. I came from no background in terms of like visual or audio, and to be able to pick your brain, and you've helped me so much, just kind of out of the blue. And I appreciate you so much for everything that you've helped us grow into as a channel.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I'm happy to use that help. I mean, I'll use that as a endorsement for anyone in the space who needs help. I'm always happy to help with people trying to find their way in this space. Just because I think there's a lot of value in it. Like we've talked about, just finding communities and like shared interests and like connections with one another. That's really why I appreciate it. And so like I always want to help people find their footing in the space so they can like reach those connections. We can all sort of build a better world together in a sense. And that kind of ties it to my final question here, which is, beyond any monetary or financial value, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
I would say the community. I would say getting to talk to people about the things I love talking about. Because I would say pre-2008, liking comic books and comic book movies wasn't as widely accepted as it is today. It was very much a niche passion, and it was a passion that not a lot of people accepted, especially, where I grew up. I had a couple of friends that I could talk to about this, but not a lot of people. And, as I was growing up, I would find myself drifting more towards the things that other people like, but I would always try and stay true to myself and like this stuff. But it's hard when you didn't have that community of people to talk to. And now being able to talk to so many people on a daily basis about all of this stuff is probably the most rewarding thing for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I feel too. I read a lot of manga and watched a lot of anime growing up, and that I think when I was growing up was also still pretty niche at the time. And the fact that sharing it with our community, but also with him, is one of the most fun things.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever do it, but like I've joked about getting him to react to Sailor Moon at some point.
Let's do it.
So that I think is honestly just the fun of it. I'm very grateful for being able to actually devote this much time to something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. The passion there, and I think Sailor Moon would be a fantastic reaction series for you. I really be interested in that.
I did get him to listen to the original Japanese and the American theme song. So.
Listen, okay. I knew the American version of Sailor Moon. That's a bot. Certified.
We do have a final questionnaire that we have for everyone. It's 10 questions down the line. You can both answer. So the first question is, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Oh,
you put the qualifier in there of all time. That's tougher. Yeah. I would probably say, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say my favorite TV show of the past 2 years has easily been The Bear.
Okay, great.
It is a show that speaks to me in a very profound way. It's a show that deals with anxiety and the anxiety of growing up in an Italian family for me. But anxiety in general, which is something I struggled with, social anxiety, just anxiety in general. And to see it realized in such a realistic manner on that show, and also focuses on cooking, which is a passion of mine. So yeah. I love The Bear.
That's super hard for me because until more recently, I really was not a huge TV person outside of anime. I mean, but I gotta be blunt. If I'm talking my favorite show of all time, it has to be Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters.
Yeah.
I'm so obsessed with it. I'm not saying it's the best show ever, because it's not.
It's terrible.
But
but it's great.
For some reason, as a kid, I got so emotionally invested in Yugi and the Pharaoh and every single one of those characters for some inexplicable reason.
Oh my god! The debates that we've had for hours on who's the better duelist, Yugi or the Pharaoh.
That is not what we were dueling about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could go on about the original series and the stupidest aspects of it.
Yeah, I definitely have some strong nostalgia for that series as well. So I totally understand. What is your favorite film of all time?
Ooh, mine is easy. It's Up. I love Pixar. I love the Toy Stories. But Up is probably my all-timer. I got him to watch it for the first time because I brought it up to him when we first met.
And I loved it.
And my parents love it. It's so rewarding for me to share that with people.
I'm gonna cheat again. My real answer is probably Avengers Endgame. But that's a little basic. So I want to talk about a movie that's in my top 5 favorite films of all time that I don't think gets talked about at all ever, and that is Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. It's a film that is all about growing up and about accepting the futility of life and loss and how we as adults have to say goodbye to things. And I think it's a very, very well done anime film based off of an existing nostalgia property like Digimon Adventure. And it's one that holds a very special place in my heart.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah, I've been meaning to watch the Digimon series. I've only seen the first 2 generations, and I know they've done so much since then with like the continuation of those characters. Yeah, so I definitely want to jump into that. Next question is, what stresses you out?
I mean, the simple answer for me is everything, because I'm just a very naturally nervous person. I'm very nervous about like large parties and social gatherings. The real answer is probably upsetting people in any way, to the point where like I try to like even put off checking work emails sometimes because I'm so nervous, like someone's mad at me for something.
Yeah, I get that.
The concept of failure stresses me out. Like the not achieving something or not accomplishing something, or the idea of like not doing something exactly the way I want it to be done, like stresses me out. So I guess it's not really controlling, because I don't find myself a controlling person, but it's just I set personal goals for myself, and to not hit those goals is frustrating for me.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. What helps you relax?
Probably like Yu-Gi-Oh. I've recently started playing the card game again, so while that is stressful in and of itself, it definitely helps me relax. I can kind of really hyper focus on that for a little bit and kind of unfocus on a lot of the things I shouldn't be focused on.
I play a lot of Pokemon Unite. I don't know why.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the last time you picked it?
It's been a while, but again, time.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's weird, but I main Blissey. But I do try to play a good variety of them. But yeah, I'll use that to de-stress and then have a bad team and then stress out over something totally different. So that's cool.
Yeah, it can happen. What is a hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
You go ahead.
Well, for me, it's cooking. I think that something I feel like this was always my hobby or passion, films and comic books. But that's a little too close. So I would definitely say cooking. I like to think of myself as a pretty good cook, and that's kind of my outlet. That's another form of artistic expression for me because I like to plate things very artistically. So that's really another version of me getting to kind of just relax and express myself in a different way from how we do on the channel.
For me, like it's so basic. I like playing games. I've started reading more. I've started reading a lot more. I'm rereading the Hunger Games. But also as someone who is not a native New Yorker, I will sometimes just go out for a drive and like drive around to places I'm not familiar with or just go walk around. And honestly, that's pretty nice, like to just get out of the house more and just clear my mind a bit.
Right. Yeah. Just that exploration. Yeah. It's definitely something I wish I could do more here in LA without the traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Ooh.
This is hard because Nicki has identified me as someone who she claims has shown in protagonist energy.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of characters I relate very closely to. One, Tyson from Beyblade is an obscure one that the real ones will understand. But Naruto, I think me and Naruto have a lot in common. But I think most recently Sanji, Vince Smoke Sanji from One Piece. That's a huge reason why I got into the show. Some people told me I'd like the character. I didn't realize how much we had in common. Outside of the womanizing, I don't think that's not a trait I promote. But outside, like in terms of like his relationship with his family and cooking. Those are two things that's really spoke to me as a character.
Oh God, I've been told I'm like Amy Santiago in Brooklyn Nine-Nine a lot. But for characters that I deeply care about, Kimberly Hart, very easily one that I fell in love with instantly. I care deeply about Pharaoh Atem. And I could talk about that forever. One that is much more obscure, but that to this day I care about. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ojama Jojo or Magical Doremi. It was an anime that for kids dubbed. And the main character, whose name is Doremi, she's a very stereotypical magical girl protagonist, but something about her, like more than Sailor Moon or Cardcaptor Sakura, like I identified with her. She's very hot-headed. She loves steak very specifically. She loves being a witch, and that just gravitated me towards her so much.
Do you love being a witch?
I want to be a witch, like she did. But she's a character to this day that I still deeply care about.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. Yeah. What is your guilty pleasure show or film?
Oh, mine's easy.
Mine's pretty. I think mine's pretty easy too. I don't consider this a guilty pleasure. I think it was at the time when it was first released, so I had called it a guilty pleasure. But Josie and the Pussycats, that movie is ahead of its time, and to this day, now that it's being re-embraced by the cultural zeitgeist, I have stood firm that movie was ahead of its time, and it's a classic.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, it's amazing. I watched it because of him. Mine is going to annoy him.
Oh God!
Because it is very easily Full House. I loved that show so much as a kid. Suddenly, shorts of it started showing up on my Facebook, which I don't even use that much, but they kept showing up to the point where it's like, I'm going to start rewatching this. And then I'll just pull up a random clip on my phone and he'll be annoyed hearing it.
Because you play your phone so loud, and I'm trying to like read a comic book or something, and I'll just hear like Bob Saget screaming from the other room.
The laugh track,
Sorry.
What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
Oh, that's easy.
I mean,
I think it's the same.
Yeah, the easy answer would be Power Rangers, but I think that was pretty easy in terms of like I always liked that, and but I think the most fulfilling one was One Piece, because that's the one that made us feel like this is working, like this. There's something here that's special. And everything kind of just came together when we watched that show.
Yeah, and also like for me, very specifically, it was episode 5 when Sanji is introduced.
Yeah,
like as we were recording that, like we just had this groove going, and I think it just had to also be because the episode is so freaking good. Yeah. But like that was the most comfortable and natural I'd ever felt up to that point in a video, and that's one that like will just always stick with me in a very positive way.
Of course. Yeah. That's definitely, I mean, I think that you did break through a barrier with that one. Just in terms of, yes, the awareness, your space in the space. Yeah.
Yeah.
What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to on camera for the first time?
That's a tough question.
That's tough.
Because like movie going experiences influence my love of film a lot. Like my most recent one was Madam Web, and I wouldn't trade that movie theater experience for anything in the world because it was fantastic.
Yeah.
So as much as I'd love to watch that movie again for the first time, I can't say that. Same with Endgame. That's why it's my favorite movie of all time, because it felt like a culmination of 10 years, and to watch it in a theater full of people just like me, screaming at the top of their lungs and crying, it was just something I wouldn't take back. So I'd probably say something.
Here's an idea.
What?
Sonic 2?
Sonic 2. That's a great answer, because I love Sonic 2. It's a masterpiece of cinema. Sonic 2.
Yeah.
That's really hard. But one that comes to mind very quickly for me, because of his reaction, was Turning Red. Because he didn't see it until like a couple months ago for the first time. Right. I'd been begging him to see it. He was very.
That's a good answer.
He was skeptical because he likes Pixar, but not to my extent. And then like at one point I think I was like, can we watch something I want to watch? And then we did, and he picked it. And I think it was beyond your expectations. Yeah, because they marketed that movie terribly. It was terribly mismarketed.
Yeah.
And if I knew it was a boy band movie, I would have watched it right away.
And our final question here: what advice would you give to your past self when you first started the channel?
Probably the first thing I'd say is, hey man, it's me from the future. And then I would just say, be yourself. Yeah. Just be comfortable and just be yourself, and people will come.
I would probably say, hey, like some of this stupid shit you're going through, promise you it's not that important. It's not worth getting stressed out about. Stay true to yourself and do what you think is best.
Mm-hmm. Yes, fantastic advice. I think applicable to anyone at any point. So very good. Monty, Nicki, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to everything you do with the channel moving forward.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Where can we find you online, on YouTube, social media, otherwise?
You guys can find me everywhere at the Montyverse. I think it's at the Montyverse everywhere except Instagram, where it's just Montyverse. Someone had taken the Montyverse right.
Yeah.
But everywhere else, it's at the Montyverse.
I mostly don't use socials too much, but the most I probably ever use is Twitter, where you can find me at EggLordNicki. I'll mostly be talking about more Montyverse stuff, but I'll make the occasional charming tweet every now and then. And of course, find me on the channel itself.
Of course, you can find us at Passion for Us on social media. You can find me at Nerdchronic across social media as well. If you're finding this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Please subscribe to the Passion Fruit newsletter. We appreciate any numbers there. And we'll catch you on the next episode.